Hello everyone. Today the topic for discussion is ovulation. So ovulation is expulsion of ovum from the ovary into the abdominal cavity. If we go for a more scientific definition, it is the expulsion of cumulus oocyte complex out of the ovary at the mid of the menstrual cycle. So supposingly, if the menstrual cycle is of 28 days, the ovulation occurs at 14th day. If the menstrual cycle is of 30 days, the ovulation occurs on the 15th day. So you can see this is the ovary. You can see the various follicles. The one follicle is enlarging, becoming the dominant follicle, and finally it is ovulating. You can see the ovum has been expelled out of the ovary into the abdominal cavity. And here the ovum is picked up by the fimbriae of the fallopian tubes. So this process is ovulation, the expulsion of ovum from the ovary into the abdominal cavity. This is another diagram. This is ovary, and you can see this is fimbriae, the finger-like projections of the fallopian tube, and this pearly white shining thing is the ovum. Again, this image is showing you the process of ovulation. This is one more diagram to make things clear to you. You can see this outer side is the cortex, and the central part is the medulla of the ovary. So you can see the cortex is here exhibited more clearly. You can see the follicles growing at the periphery. One is becoming dominant, and finally the ovum is expelled out of the ovary, resulting in ovulation. So when we talk about the ovulation, it is a part of a big cycle which is known as the ovarian cycle. And this ovarian cycle consists of three phases: follicular phase, ovulation phase, and luteal phase. So what is follicular phase? It is when the follicles grow and reaches to the stage of the dominant follicle. Ovulation, it is the process of expulsion of the ovum out of the ovary. And luteal phase, it is post ovulation, the formation of corpus luteum is known as the luteal phase. So if we see, the ovarian cycle includes the recruitment of a group of follicles. The second, the selection of a dominant follicle and its maturation. Third is ovulation. Fourth is corpus luteum. And fifth stage is demise of this corpus luteum. So recruitment. Recruitment means the inclusion of the follicles into the growth phase. If you remember, during embryogenesis, the primordial germ cells migrate to gonads. They divide mitotically until 5th month of gestation. 7 million oogonias enter meiosis and become the primary oocyte. This primary oocyte gets arrested in diplotin stage of meiosis 1. This meiotic arrest can last up to 5 years. So the primordial follicles are formed in the ovary. They will remain so if they are not included for recruitment in the arrested stage for even 40 years, 50 years. So the recruitment of these dormant follicles into the growth phase is known as the recruitment of the follicle. So recruitment is the process by which an arrested follicle is triggered to reinitiate the development and enter the pool of the growing follicles. So the basic follicle which is present in the ovary is primordial follicle. So each cycle these primordial follicles are the one which are recruited for this ovarian cycle. So when the recruitment of these primordial follicles occur for an ovarian cycle, they enter into a growth wave and starts developing first into primary preantral follicle, then into secondary preantral follicle, then into mature secondary preantral follicle, and this further grows into the antral follicle. Now among these antral follicle, one will grow as the dominant follicle which will finally ovulate. So now the question arises कि why these follicles will be recruited, Will all the follicles will be recruited, and when will these follicles recruited? So the answer to this is कि not all primordial follicles develop into this enter into this growth stage. Only few handful, 40-50 primordial follicles from each ovary, they enter into the growth phase. So when they start growing, they enter into the next stage. Some of them undergo atresia, while some proceed to the next stage. 40 प्राइमोडियल फॉलिकल थे फॉर एग्जाम्पल, उनमें से 20-25 का एट्रीजिया हो जाएगा, 15-20 एंटर कर जाएंगे प्राइमरी प्री एंट्रल में. अब ये जो 15-20 प्राइमरी प्री एंट्रल थे, ये क्या होगा, इसमें से 10-12 एट्रीजिया कर जाएंगे और थोड़े से पहुंचेंगे एंट्रल फॉलिकल पे. एंट्रल फॉलिकल पे सपोजिंगली 10 पहुंचे, 9 में एट्रीजिया हो जाएगा, सिर्फ एक डोमिनेंट फॉलिकल बनेगा. So this is how some undergo atresia and some undergo development, but the final result is a single dominant follicle which will finally ovulate. Now the reason is why these primordial follicles are recruited, but why these particular ones were recruited and others were left out. So this is a diagram showing you a primordial follicle just for revision. This is a process which I have already told you, that so many primordial follicles were recruited, some underwent atresia and some entered into the next stage, and you see finally one graphene follicle is being formed. This is another diagram which is showing you that so many follicles started the journey, but it was only the one follicle which reached the dominant follicle stage. Now, which one will be recruited? Because we know that not all primordial follicles are recruited. So this is an pituitary independent phenomena. This is definitely a GnRH independent phenomena. Probably might be controlled by autocrine or paracrine mechanisms, but we have two hypotheses regarding this. The one is, if you remember, that at the cortex of the ovary, the follicles are present in various stages of development, whereas in medulla, the blood vessels travel at the center, and these blood vessels have blood in it, and blood brings nutrients and the blood-borne regulatory molecules. So this might be possible that those primordial follicles which were close to these blood vessels, they entered into the growth phase. एंड द सेकेंड हाइपोथेसिस इज दिस कि हर प्राइमोडियल फॉलिकल में एक अपनी क्लॉक थी, इंटरनल क्लॉक थी, और जिसका जब टाइम आ गया वो उस रिक्रूट हो गया. तो सेकेंड हाइपोथेसिस इज इंटरनल oocyte क्लॉक mechanism. But which one will be recruited? Exactly how many will be recruited? Nobody knows. But we can, if we see them, we can make sure that okay, this primordial follicle has been recruited, because these are the three changes which tells you that okay, the primordial follicle has entered into the growth phase and has started its journey for the ovarian cycle. So the granulosa cells change from the squamous to the cuboidal. The granulosa cells start dividing, that is the mitosis starts, and the DNA synthesis starts. So these are the signs of the which suggest that primordial follicle has entered into the growth phase. Now selection of dominant follicle. So up to the antral follicles, for example, 20 antral follicles have reached. Now one will become dominant and rest will undergo atresia, and this dominant follicle will ovulate. Now let's study about the dominant follicle. Now this is a diagram which is showing you a full blown dominant follicle. The brown layer you are seeing is theca cell layer, which is divided into the external and internal cell layer. Then this is the basal lamina, black one. The green one are the mural granulosa cells. Then light blue color, this one is the antral fluid. The blue one, these are the cumulus granulosa cells which surround the oocyte. This is the oocyte which is sitting inside and has a zona pellucida outside it. And this is a stalk by which this cumulus oophorus complex oophorous complex is connected to the mural granulosa cells with the help of this stalk. Now these theca cells are also steroidogenic. These mural cells are also capable of producing hormones, and cumulus cells also produce hormone. So let's study the mural granulosa cells. They form the outer wall of the follicle. These are adherent to the basal lamina and are in touch with the theca cells. These are highly steroidogenic and remains in the ovary even after the ovulation to form corpus luteum. The cumulus cells, these are the inner layer of cells that surround the oocyte. They maintain the gap and adherent junction with oocyte. With oocyte, they form the cumulus oophorous complex. So cumulus cells are released with oocyte during the ovulation. Cumulus cells are crucial for capturing of oocyte. The larger the number of cumulus cells will be there surrounding the oocyte, the size of the oocyte will be bigger. So fimbriae will be, at ease to capture this oocyte oophorous complex. And when this oocyte oophorous complex, cumulus oocyte complex will be traversing the fallopian tube, the sperm will be at ease to fertilize this. So this is again a diagram which is showing you a mature Graafian follicle. This is the antrum which is filled with the follicular fluid. So why this follicle became dominant? Any follicle which has a huge population of granular cells. Granulosa cells secrete estrogen, and these estrogens leads to the many processes which are being carried by the dominant follicle. This dominant follicle has maximum number of FSH receptors. It has increased FSH concentration in follicular fluid and has estrogenic microenvironment. So dominant follicle after selection emerges as a strong steroidogenic gland, and both theca and granulosa cells, they both secrete hormones. Pre-ovulatory, the ovum secretes estrogen, and post-ovulatory it secretes progesterone. So this is a dominant follicle which is 20 millimeter in size with 50 million granulosa cells, and it secretes huge amount of estrogen. So you see this estrogen is inhibiting the growth of other follicles, making the cervical mucus thin so that sperms can penetrate. This affects the fallopian tubes, make them, good for transporting of the ovum, and primes the uterus for the action of progesterone. Now the antrum contains the follicular fluid, and this follicular fluid contains estrogen, FSH, traces of androgen, oocyte maturation inhibiting factor, and plasmin. The role of FSH, it helps in formation of plasmin, and plasmin cause lysis of follicle wall at the time of ovulation. Now the oocyte is competent to complete meiosis but remains arrested in dominant follicle until the LH surge occurs. The growth of oocyte is continuing but at a slower rate. Now what is LH surge? LH surge means the sudden rise of LH hormone during the peri-ovulatory period. We all know that ovulation occurs at the mid-cycle. That is, if the cycle is of 28 days, the ovulation is occurring at the 14th day. 1 to 2 days prior to the ovulation is the peri-ovulatory period. So the LH surge occurs in the peri-ovulatory period and is one of the most important phenomena which leads to the ovulation. So peri-ovulatory period is time from the onset of LH surge to the ovulation and lasts for 32 to 36 hours before the ovulation. So if we come to ovulation, it's itself comprised of 7 steps. The first is appearance of the LH surge. So during peri-ovulatory period, the dominant follicle has 50 million granulosa cells and they are secreting a good huge amount of estrogen. 200 picogram per ml of estrogen, if secreted for 2 days, produces the LH surge. This large amount of estrogen gives a positive feedback on LH and the levels of LH rises suddenly just before the ovulation. And what are the functions of this LH surge? If you remember, the granulosa cells were secreting the oocyte maturation inhibiting factor. Now this LH surge will neutralize this so that the reduction division can be completed, the meiosis can be proceeded. Then it leads to the luteinization of the granulosa cells. What do we mean by luteinization? Luteinization is nothing but the change in the character of the mural and granulosa cells. The nature of their secretion changes, and this is post-ovulatory. This is known as luteinization. And then LH surge also leads to the secretion of prostaglandin, cytokines, hydrolytic enzymes for the rupture of follicular wall as well as the ovarian wall. So I have already told you that luteinization is change in the steroidogenic function of the theca and mural cells, the process of formation of corpus luteum capable of producing progesterone and estrogen. Now the another important thing what LH causes is the swelling of the cumulus oophrus complex. This leads to the swelling of cumulus oophrus complex, and the fimbria can easily identify them, and sperms can easily locate them for the fertilization. We all know that LH surge occurs in the periovulatory period, that it starts occurring 36 hours prior to the ovulation, peaks at 12 to 24 hours, and estrogen levels even peak prior to this onset of this LH surge. Let me show you a diagram if I have in this slide. So the next step is the appearance of stigma. Stigma is a nipple-like protrusion on the wall of the ovary. As you can see, this is the ovary and this is the follicle. The nipple-like protrusion of the on the wall of the ovary. Actually, what happens? The increase in the follicular fluid volume under the influence of LH surge results in the increased size of the follicle. This follicle presses the ovary and generates a poorly vascularized bulge of the ovarian wall. So what you are seeing here is the poorly vascularized bulge of the ovarian wall, and you can see here the lysis will occur and the ovum will come out through this opening. So rupture of stigma occurs next to this step. The LH surge and FSH has led to the synthesis of plasmin. This plasmin, prostaglandins, cytokines and proteolytic enzymes from the lysosomes in theca external cells lead to the necrosis of the follicular wall. The wall ruptures and the antral cavity is in continuation with the peritoneal cavity. Now we all know that because of the LH surge, this cumulus oophrus complex enlarges, and this happens because the cumulus cells produces hyaluronic acid and other components. These substances enlarges the entire complex. This process is called as cumulus expansion. Now once the cumulus expansion has occurred, this stalk degenerates. ये यहाँ से हट जाता है, and this cumulus oocyte complex is freely floating in the antrum wall. Now what happens? The lysis has occurred here in the follicular wall. There is a hole here. Now this will come out through this opening. This is a ultrasound picture which is showing a dominant follicle just before the ovulation. So this is another line diagram which is showing you that what happens, this stalk degenerates and this cumulus oocyte complex freely floats in this antral fluid, and the lysis of the wall occurs here. And now when a wave will generate in this fluid, because of the LH surge, the fluid volume of this antrum increases and a wave is produced, and this wave throws this cumulus oocyte complex out of the follicular wall, and this follicle is pressing the ovary, and ovary is also having a lysis on the wall. So this complex is thrown out of the ovum and out of the ovary. So the attachment of the cumulus cells with mural granulosa cells degenerate. The cumulus oocyte complex becomes freely floating in the antral cavity. The follicular fluid starts oozing from the follicle. A wave of fluid brings cumulus oophorous complex with it and throw it out into a peritoneal cavity, and the ovulation has occurred. So you can see this diagram. This follicular wall was pressing against the wall of the ovary, and as the follicular fluid increased in amount, a wave generated, and this wave threw this ovum with along the cumulus cells out of the ovary. So this is the process of the ovulation. And when this ovulation has occurred, this ovum is being captured by the fimbria of the fallopian tube and is transferred into the fallopian tube, where the sperms come and fertilize the ovum. Now what is left behind are the mural cells, mural granulosa cells, as well as the theca cells. Now these cells, they have already undergone luteinization, and they form the corpus luteum. If the pregnancy occurs, this corpus luteum persists and produces progesterone till the placenta takes its part in the action. And if the pregnancy does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates and the corpus albicans is formed. So with this, you end with the ovulation. Next lecture, we will be studying the test of ovulation. Thank you.